We are Black We are Ohio.
It is a beautiful night in downtown Cincinnati, and yes, the renewal of the Ohio Cup tonight. The Reds and the Cleveland Indians in the first of three from Great American Ballpark in downtown Cincinnati. Hi again, everybody, alongside Chris Welsh and Jeff Pecoro. I'm Tom Brenneman. Welcome, as always, to Reds Baseball right here on Fox Sports Ohio. I tell you what, Chris, it was back in June when the Reds were really starting to kick things into gear. Remember, they went 21-9 in the month of June, and that included beating this first-place Cleveland team 2 out of 3 games.
That was a wild and woolly series, wasn't it? I think the Reds took the first 2 ball games, and then the Indians came back with 19 on them in the third game. But, hey, no big deal about that. Anytime you get a first-place team in town here, like the Indians are, like the Arizona Diamondbacks have been, and many other teams the Reds have had this year, they seem to have the ability to up their game just a little bit.
Reds have been very, very good. You see 15-6 going back to the third week of June against teams that are in first place. Let's zero in now on tonight's starter for the Reds. Homer Bailey came back at 2 really good starts and then a little bump in the road his last time
out.
out.
I think he pitched better than the numbers indicated, at least early in the ball game. He gave up 3 runs in the first inning. He didn't really pitch all that badly. A couple of hits that found holes, and he ends up being down by 3. It went from being unlucky, though, to being really bad for him. It was not a very good outing. He had complaints after the ball game about how the scouting reports were bad. Maybe he'll be back on the beam tonight and be able to use that breaking pitch. He's got a couple of different breaking pitches, slider and curveball, and split finger. With the lefties in this lineup, you better get that splitter working.
And one guy you better be working on every time you see him is this guy, Jose Ramirez.
He's lefty sometimes and he's righty sometimes. He's a switch hitter, and he ought to be feared by just about everybody. Very short swing, very powerful young man. He runs, he hits it hard. This guy has come out of nowhere to be really the best Indians player.
Ramirez and Lindor, the top 2 performers on this Indians team. You want to try and slow them down, that duo at the top of the Indians batting order. When we come back, Jeff Pecoro will talk about how well the Reds have played during Interleague for a change this year. Back with that in a moment.
Cincinnati Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio is brought to you by Chevy. Check out our award-winning lineup only at your tri-state Chevy dealers. By Skyline Chili, feeling good, it's Skyline time. And by Buick.
I'm Local 12 News meteorologist John Gum. Battle of Ohio tonight at Great American Ballpark. And I'll tell you, excellent weather here for mid-August. We're talking low 80s by the first pitch, pretty close to normal temperatures here. We'll be into the mid-70s by the final out. Partly cloudy skies become mostly clear, so a great night for baseball. Enjoy the game here on Fox Sports Ohio.
Well, the past few years, the Reds have not been very good in interleague play. That has changed this season. The Reds have been very good. As a matter of fact, 10-5 in interleague play this season. That's a .667 win percentage. Their best all-time is .600. 10 wins is the second most they've had in a single season, and they still have 5 games left, including their game tonight. And that leads us to tonight's storyline presented by Elk and Elk. It's the 21st season of interleague play. When it first started out, the National League absolutely rolled. They won 4 of the first 7 series. But the National League 122 and 102 versus AL this season. The American League has won 17 of the last 21 season series versus the National League, including each season since 2004. So that means the National League last won in 2003. They virtually guaranteed a win this year. So the National League has been much better. Hopefully that holds true all the way through the World Series as well. Coming up, it's the battle for the Ohio Cup Part 2. The Reds took the first one. Can they win the Cup and bring it home? We will see coming up.
Of the year, the 208th appearance and start of his major league career. It's his 9th career outing against the Cleveland Indians. And he has not fared well against American League teams in his career. More on that later, but it's Terry Francona, a one-time Cincinnati Reds, skipper of these Indians. And his lineup reads as follows. Lindor, standout shortstop, Brantley in left and Ramirez at third. The former Red Alonso at first, Melky Cabrera in right, Jason Kipnis at second, Yan Gomes, Greg Allen, and Mike Clevenger, the pitcher. The latter third in the batting order, and the numbers not good for Homer Bailey. 1-9 record, an ERA of up over 6. We mentioned his last start was not a good one against the New York Mets after 2 very good starts since coming off the disabled list. And his first pitch is low, ball 1 to Lindor. This one underway. That first came back 6 2/3, 2 runs for Homer, with 8 punch-outs against St. Louis in 8 innings of 3-hit, 2-run baseball. 6 more punch-outs in Detroit, but lasting just 3 1/3 innings, giving up 11 hits and 5 runs, and then really took issue with the scouting report that he was given by the Reds' advanced scouting team as to how to go about pitching to the New York Mets. 2-0 on Lindor, and now it's 3 balls and no strikes. There were a lot of people inside the Reds organization that were very, very upset with Bailey and those comments that he made about the advanced scouting report. That's in there, a strike.
You know, sometimes, Tom, it just seems like an alibi. And, you know, if you go out there and you give up a bunch of runs, sometimes you just have to eat your medicine. And for the most part, Homer Bailey's been a stand-up guy. I mean, a good start or bad start, he's normally there available to the press. And, well, I think that he was just felt like that maybe, you know, the Mets did something against him that he didn't expect. And in the first inning, a lot of that was actually, you know, balls that were hit in holes, that found holes, and it kind of maybe got him into a little bad spiral. Came right back here from a 3-0 count, though.
Yep. 3-2 on Lindor after the foul ball and a 3-2 pitch.
The difference that I see with Homer Bailey now that he's back from the disabled list, is that he's using all 4 of his pitches in the same game. It used to be that Bailey would, you know, he'll go through a streak where he started using his curveball, and then he would start using his slider. But now it's a curveball and slider and split finger pitch.
Lindor jumps on that pitch and hooks it foul.
You know, that splitter that he throws to left-handers to get him out, it can be one of the best pitches in baseball. Looks just like a fastball, drops off a table. But sometimes the control of that pitch, even if you're good with it, you hang it up there, boy, it is an easy one to hit.
So Lindor off and running and doing what he normally does, banging one into right field, a base hit. Boy, what a player.
Fastball right here after a splitter and just kind of cut the center of the plate belt high.
Got to keep an eye on him. He's not a huge base stealer. In fact, he's not been a very good percentage base stealer, Lindor, so far this year. But he certainly is a threat to run over at first base. He has 19 stolen bases. He has been thrown out 6 times. Now Michael Brantley. There goes Lindor. Throw down to second. They got it. They got it. Didn't get a good jump. Bailey got rid of it quickly, and Barnhart a perfect throw.
Well, he didn't have as big a lead, I think, as the Reds were giving him right there. Great throw by Tucker Barnhart, right on the money. You see that where Peraza has his foot, he's giving Lindor only the outside of the part of the base to get to. He tries to do a around the side tag, but he's easily out. So that's a little pick-me-up there for the starting pitcher.
And it was a strike to Brantley. And Homer comes back with a breaking ball that misses low. Michael Brantley coming all the way back. Really has suffered so many injuries over the last couple of years. An extremely talented player. There was a time he was the best player in this Indians lineup, and he's not all that far from getting there again. 298 batter, 13 home runs, 62 batted in, nearly 30 doubles. That's the thing about this Indians lineup. You know, they have Edwin Encarnacion. He wouldn't be in the lineup tonight anyway because they use him as a designated hitter. He just went on the disabled list yesterday, so he will not be available at all in this series, even off the bench as a pinch hitter. There are a lot of guys up and down the lineup that can hurt you, but they're not necessarily having very good years, except for really the top 3 and 4 if you include Encarnacion in the lineup. Brantley gone on strikes, 2 away. Take a look at the Reds defensively behind Bailey tonight, presented by Ford. Mason Williams, a rare start in center field. Irvin in right, Tucker in left. Suarez, Peraza, Jeanette, Votto around the infield. Barnhart hanging the sides. Jose Ramirez will settle in. Tucker starting back-to-back games out in left field. Second in the American League in home runs. First in the American League in stolen bases is Jose Ramirez.
Pretty great combination, isn't it?
This is a guy who right around 2 years ago, Chisenhall, you may remember, was their third baseman. He went through some injuries. Ramirez got a chance to come in there and play third base. Had a monster postseason when the Indians advanced on to the World Series. And then given the job every day last year, has just become a great player. There have been only 3 players in the history of baseball to lead their league in both home runs and stolen bases. And you've got to go all the way back to 1932 for the third one. Jimmy Sheckard did for Brooklyn in 1903, the great Ty Cobb in 1909 with the Tigers, and Chuck Klein with the 32 Phillies. That one looped into left field. It'll be a base hit for Ramirez. So 3 batters and 2 hits. RIZS bringing the energy, not only the home runs we mentioned second, stolen bases first, but look where he is in walks, RBIs, extra base hits. The last player to be in the top 5 in the American League in home runs, walks, stolen bases, Mickey Mantle, 1959.
Maybe time to remind you also that Jose Ramirez is 25 years old. So he has reached a very high plateau very early in his major league career.
The one-time Red Yonder Alonso lifts a fly ball to Tucker, and that's it. 4 batters, 2 hits, 1 left, no runs. Reds are coming up against Mike Clevenger when we return. No score. And Jim Riggleman's starting lineup reads as follows: Peraza, Votto, Suarez to start it. Jeanette, Barnhart, Williams in the middle. Latter third of Urban. Preston Tucker in the 8th spot. Homer Bailey batting 9th. When you talk about talented young arms, that would certainly be true for this right-hander Mike Clevenger.
You know, he's a typical guy, Tom, that everybody kind of drooled over with his natural stuff, and they always said, well, if he can ever find a way to throw the ball over the plate, he can really be something. Well, guess what? He's throwing the ball over the plate better now than he ever has before. His walks are way down from last year, and you know, to be kind of sandwiched in a very quiet part of this very good Cleveland rotation, he's a guy that had a really good season.
First pitch swinging is Peraza, and that's 1 pitch, 1 out. Cleveland behind Clevenger on defense, presented by Ford. They'll go with Allen in center, flanked by Melky Cabrera. We did not see him the last time these teams played, and Brantley in left. It's pretty much their regular everyday infield. And Jan Gomes, their standout defensive catcher behind the plate. Clevenger originally was a 4th-round pick by the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim in 2011 out of Seminole State College in Florida. Remember the name Vinny Pastano? Very good right-handed reliever. In fact, I think one year he went to an all-star game, but he was a setup guy. He wasn't even a closer. And the Indians traded Pastano to the Angels, and they got Clevenger.
And Pastano is now out of baseball.
And this guy's part of one of the top 2 starting rotations in the major leagues.
Well, he
I'm
remembers.
just amazed some of the deals we've seen that teams have made this year of trading away a guy that was good, certainly not great, and in some cases quite mediocre. Jeff Samardzija comes to mind, right? And you got Addison Russell. And if I'm not mistaken, it was the other pitcher in that deal. They got a good right-hander. Was it Jason Hamill in that deal?
Yes.
And I mean, you're thinking to yourself, think of some of the guys the Reds have traded. There's a slow roller by the mound. And that's a second out of the inning. I mean, Vinny Pastano, and they got this guy?
Well, I mean, he was a young kid at the time, a minor leaguer, and, you know, with a lot of promise. And sometimes those guys hit, sometimes they don't. In this case of Clevenger, it's worked out great for the Indians.
I mean, you look at the deal, the Reds gave up Alfredo Simon. Look who they get back in return for that. Eugenio Suarez,
Good
right?
example.
There are others the other way.
There always are.
Sure. And here is the aforementioned Mr. Suarez with 2 down. 26 home runs, 88 knocked in for Suarez. Clevenger was lights out when the Reds saw him earlier this year in Cleveland. The Reds won that game, but Clevenger took the loss. He struck out a career-high 11. The Reds got to him late. Wound up with 5 home runs, got a big home run. The latter part of the ball game, those 11 strikeouts came in just 6 innings. But for Clevenger, this is a ballpark he made his major league debut in May of 2016. Gone swinging is Suarez, and it's a 1-2-3 first for Clevenger. End of 1. No score.
Plus, get weekly stats, roster updates, and more. RBI Baseball 18 is available now. Learn more at rbigame.com. Rated E for everyone. And how about this, Tom and Chris? Joey Votto tonight with his start. He passes Justin Morneau for most games played by a Canadian first baseman. So Joey Votto, #1 in Canadian first baseman, passing Morneau with 1,546 games played.
Well, that is quite an honor, no doubt about it, for Joey Votto, and one that he is certainly proud of. In fact, we've heard him say many, many times in interviews, you can ask him about his hits and his walks and his on-base percentage, all the numbers he's put up in his major league career, and he'll tell you that the one number that he pays the most attention to and is most fond of is the number of games that he plays in. High fly ball, left center field by Melky Cabrera. And Mason Williams there for out #1 to start the Cleveland second inning. Here's where you're getting into the part of the Indians lineup that we talked about. Every single one of these guys at one time or another has been a very good offensive player, and not just for a year or two. Kipnis has been an outstanding offensive player for a long time. Gomes has had some very good offensive seasons. But for both of those guys, and for a lot of the Cleveland batters outside of the front four guys in the batting order pretty much on a nightly basis, guys are having tough years this year.
Well, he's had back-to-back tough years. Jason Kipnis has. At one time he was a 300 hitter back in 2015. And you don't know whether it's a combination of age, maybe some injuries, some things that are nagging a little bit. But when they've already done it one time, he's had a season where he's hit as many 23 home runs. So you have to respect his power.
Sure. Kipnis gone swinging in for Homer Bailey. He has 2 strikeouts tonight.
What the Indians do is they just annihilate usually the back end of your rotation. They put a lot of runs up on the board, the Indians do. And they do this because the majority of the back end of rotations are right-handed. And tonight they are sending up almost all left-handers. If you include a couple of switch hitters, they have 4 switch hitters in this lineup. And the only true right-handed position player who's a right-hander is Yan Gomes. Tonight, Clevenger, the pitcher, is right-handed. But, that can wear a right-handed pitcher out. If you face lefty after lefty after lefty, and you don't have that pitch to get left-handed hitters out. Homer Bailey has that split-finger fastball. That's why I said in the open that'll be a very important pitch for him this evening. There it is. We'll get a little look actually from our center field camera inside the glove of Homer Bailey. Sometimes you can see it. You see a lot of baseball in there in between his middle finger and his index finger, and we'll know before anybody else what's coming.
That ball blasted into left center field off the bat of Yan Gomes. That is up against the wall, and the Cleveland catcher delivers a 2-out double. A lot of Indians fans here tonight, just as there were a lot of Cincinnati fans up in Cleveland when we were there earlier this summer.
I tried to go upstairs on the fastball, didn't quite get it high enough. And Gomes is about as strong as you will find a baseball player anywhere.
Number 8 hitter is Greg Allen. 233 batters, played in 51 games. A home run, 6 runs batted in. I don't think Yan Gomes is going anywhere. He has not attempted a stolen base this entire season. Maybe just trying to keep him a little bit closer. Bailey ahead of Allen at no balls and 2 strikes. Gomes with a 2-out double. Scoreless game here in the top of the 2nd inning. And Bailey ahead of Allen at 1 ball, 2 strikes. A look back at 2nd, and now Bailey will bring it to the plate. Serve to the shortstop, Peraza. Inning over. We've played 1.5 in the battle for the Ohio Cup. No score.
Between the Indians and the Reds as we head to the bottom of the 2nd inning. And a uplifting story now, thankfully. You'll see on the Indians hat they have a LM13. That is for the Indians' Leonis Martin. He has been in the Cleveland Clinic for over a week battling a life-threatening bacterial infection. It infected his internal organs, and his organs actually started shutting down. Thankfully, today, he was upgraded to satisfactory condition. Terry Francona, the manager, asked all Indians fans to please pray for Martin, and the players, of course, wear his name and number on their hats. Indians president Chris Antonetti also said today that his progress will be measured by weeks, not days, but doctors now are very optimistic about his recovery. A scary, scary situation about a young man that they thought was going to be their center fielder. They acquired him right at the trade deadline, Tom and Chris, but it looks as though he is out of the weeds, and hopefully good things for Leonis Martin in the near future.
Certainly our thoughts and prayers are with him. It's a very scary situation, and, you know, with HIPAA laws and so forth, and Martin's family, this has been going on for a week, and there are a lot of people that have been wondering exactly what is going on with him, and they finally, as you mentioned, Pick, came out and addressed that issue before the game tonight.
Well, the other thing they said, Tom, was that his recovery is now going to be measured in terms of weeks. So we wish him the best.
Sure. Scooter Jeanette to begin things against Mike Clevenger. The Reds were set down in order 1, 2, 3 in the first. Clevenger with 1 strikeout.
Well, the first thing you notice about Mike Clevenger, of course, is probably his hair. Secondly, though, if you're in the batter's box, what you see is herky-jerky motion. He's always moving somewhere or another, kind of a nervous Jervis type. But an arm with a fastball that, you know, measures at 94 miles an hour, but hitters will tell you that it gets on you faster than that. He gets nice extension out there and kind of stays behind the ball, and he's basically over the years completely eliminated his sinking fastball and gone primarily with the four-seamer. So it's four-seam fastball, slider, curve, change.
Pull to the right side. And that's out number one. Clevenger comes in on a roll, even though they have not given him much run support. So it's been a while since he's won a game. I mean, it's been a month and a half. And he's especially good on the road. Over the last 2 seasons, for whatever reason, when he pitches good in Cleveland, he's good. When he pitches outside of Cleveland, he's been great. ERA of 2.5 over the last 2 full years.
Yeah, recently he's just pitched well enough just to lose.
Yep.
Unfortunately for him, that's why the record is 7-7. But he's had 14 quality starts in 23.
In the air, left field, that will continue to carry, and we'll wait and see on this one. A fan caught it. A Reds fan caught it. And it is a home run for the time being anyway by Tucker Barnhart. Maybe he didn't lean over, I don't know.
Terry Francona is going to run out here to the home plate umpire Mark Wegner. And he's probably going to ask for an umpire's review right here.
Oh, that's a home run. That's a no doubt.
Yeah.
Actually, the fan did lean over, but he was not the one who caught the ball. It actually bounced on that cement railing behind the yellow stripe. Take a look. The one fan whiffs. That ball already hits it. Might have banged it after it had gone through. That's a home run.
You know, for Tucker Barnhart, that's a very impressive home run. You know, the other night when he hit, and they're going to go ahead and wave him around, he's already in the dugout. Already received high fives and dancing shoes. But the double that he hit the other night, the pinch hit double, was in that same direction, left center field, and he hit it very well. This one, of course, to go out of here opposite field, you've got to stay behind the ball very well. So that's a good sign for any hitter when you start having power going the other way.
So that's number 8 for Tucker Barnhart.
Well, that's a good swing.
Great camera work there, too. Found out a play by Williams. 49 at bats so far for Mason Williams since being brought up from the minor leagues. Has a home run, 4 knocked in, has a couple of doubles. That misses outside, 2 balls and a strike. Hooked into right field, a base hit by Williams.
You know, we oftentimes talk about taking advantage of your opportunities. Mason Williams knew that he was going to be a backup outfielder. In fact, it looked like with Jesse Winker being up here and when Scott Schebler was healthy, that Mason Williams would basically spend the entire year down at AAA unless he were to get a call up in September. And even that may not have looked very promising, but all of a sudden you lose a couple of left-handed hitting outfielders. You're looking around, what do you have down in the minor leagues? And he's taking advantage of it.
Breaking ball in there, strike one to Phillip Ervin. He's seen a lot of playing time with the injuries to Winker and Schebler. Schebler was out there playing catch again earlier before the ball game today. We talked about that during Reds Live tonight. He is itching to get well enough throwing the ball to play. Swung the bat just fine down in the minor leagues, but throwing it still causes discomfort. One ball and two strikes on Phillip Ervin.
That's where the Arizona Diamondbacks began to pitch Phillip Ervin away, and he's the one that's going to have to make the adjustment.
Ervin closing in on 100 at bats, has 2 home runs, 16 knocked in, 6 doubles. And there's another breaking ball and the same result. Second strikeout for Clevenger.
You know, the way Clevenger comes to his stretch position and then his set. Here we'll take another look at the slider. It can create some problems for the umpires because he has kind of a rocking motion that he continues to go to, kind of moves his front leg back and back and back and back, and then finally comes to a full stop. See how that front leg goes back and forth?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you do that every time, umpires will say, well, he's not trying to deceive the runner, so we're going to let him get away with that. There are a lot of pitchers that have that extra movement out there. He seems to be in constant motion.
Yeah, it looks like he does 3 rocks before he comes completely set. Let's see if he does that again. I would imagine that has a lot to do with not being called for a ball, because you did it 2 times, 1 time, and 4 times another time.
Well, you have to come to a complete stop before he delivers the pitch to the plate. You do not have to stop to go to first base.
Those are the overall numbers for Preston Tucker. Only 18 at bats as a Red, and without a home run. He has 1 double and an RBI. 3-0 fastball. I'm really surprised he took a 3-0 fastball there. You got the pitcher in the on-deck circle, and Tucker's a good fastball hitter. Now, I don't know how frequently, that he's ever hit the A spot in his career, so maybe, it's a different kind of thinking, but it is a different kind of thinking. It requires a different kind of thinking.
Good point.
And that is his forte, is hitting the fastball.
Exactly.
So to take a 3-0 fastball right down the middle of the plate is just not being ready to hit or thinking about the situation.
Well, a lot of hitters will think you're going to get the same thing on 3-1 that you get on 3-0. We'll see if he does.
Takes ball 4. Well, he didn't get a strike, let's put it that way. Homer Bailey is a batter, 3 hits in 19 trips to the plate. Not a whole lot of fooling around.
Wow, a little extra on that one.
Well, there's some guys that throw 97 that look like it's 107. Now, Clevenger has cut these last 2 fastballs. That looks like Chapman-esque fastballs.
These are the best fastballs he's thrown all night, and it's to the opposing pitcher.
Then he comes back with a slider that's just unfair. But the Reds are on the board against Clevenger. A solo home run by Tucker Barnhart. 1-0 Reds. We go to inning number 3. Monday, and on Thursday the Reds are off, but Thursday night it is on here at the ballpark. It's for the ladies only. It's called A Night of Their Own. It's an incredible night. You'll do everything from get on the field and take batting practice. You'll pitch down in the bullpens. You have dinner, you have drinks, and who better to talk about it than Amanda Brenneman? You left Marty home by himself tonight. Can he fend for himself?
No, he can't. That's why he's down 2 booths from here.
Oh, so he's here.
Because we're going to Montgomery Inn after this.
Would you think that he would pop in the booth and say hi to his own son? Chris, would that even occur to you?
I think it's probably enough of a family affair here already.
I'm
Fair enough.
just thinking of it. All right, let's get to more important things, because I have to tell you, and I've talked about it here for the last, week or so, but this is really, the Reds do a lot of great events. And when they do the big events, I think they do them better than anybody. This thing was kind of an idea a couple of years ago, and I'm not sure anybody knew what to think about it.
Right.
And it's turned into an awesome night.
It really has. This is the 5th year. St. Elizabeth is a sponsor again. 5 years.
Okay.
I know. And I have to tell you, as you all well know, off nights are few and far between. And for these coaches and broadcasters, I know you're always out here, to come out here and give an off night up at home, which is a big deal. I don't think anyone was super excited the first year, but now that we've been doing it for so long, I know Marty's looking forward to it. The gals that come out are engaging. They ask great questions. They want to learn. And who best to learn from besides Jim Riggleman and all the Buddy Bell? All those guys are out here giving instructions, showing how to pitch from the pitcher's mound, catching fly balls. I mean, it's really an amazing event.
Well, I think what often happens, and it's been documented, and there have been all kinds of studies and research about how many great fans, female fans, the sport of baseball has. But you know how it goes sometimes. I mean, maybe there were a few other guys watching a game, their husband, couple of buddies, or their kids who know a lot about it, and they get a little bit intimidated. They come down here, and it is a night of their own.
It really is a night of their own. And frankly, I bet a lot of guys are pretty jealous, because I don't know of any other time in which we do this for the gentlemen. But they do. They get to ask questions that maybe they wouldn't want to ask their spouse or the significant other, because they might be embarrassed or intimidated, like you said. And even if you know nothing about the game, it's a great time to come. And even if you know a whole lot about the game, because you get to see it from a much different perspective, actually being on the field.
Well, Amanda, you've been around the game a long time. You've been a fan for a long time. And now, since you've been married to Marty, for quite a while now. You probably should be an instructor down here in this. Are you handling some of the instruction?
You know what? I'm not, but I certainly could. I played a pretty mean first base back in Ashland,
Okay.
Kentucky. Jim Riggleman has hit me enough foul balls in the outfield that I could probably teach some outfielders a few things and maybe hit a few pop-ups to them.
So
I can tell you that I would be better than Marty at it, that's for sure.
Well, you know, I don't know where you set the bar there, but what should the ladies wear when they come down here on Thursday?
You should wear baseball clothes. It is not a fancy dress ball by any stretch of the imagination. Wear your shorts, wear something that you're comfortable in, because you're going to be on the field with your glove.
Okay.
So be comfortable. It's a great opportunity for me personally, where you don't have to get dressed up to go out on a night on the town with your girlfriends, mothers, sisters, whoever it happens to be. And even if you're by yourself, come down and be casual, have dinner with us, and have a great night.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, you know, there might be some ladies out there that for whatever reason, maybe, you know, they're senior citizens or whatever, and they're thinking, oh, geez, I can't go down there and run around the bases. And if you don't want to do it, don't do it.
Absolutely not. There's a lot of opportunity to be inside the ballpark as well. You get to go to the clubhouse. You get to go to the broadcast booth. You get to have a Q&A session with Jim Riggleman. So those are all indoor type things. Thankfully, it's not going to be 100 degrees like it has been in the past, I feel like. So, you know, come down, sit in the dugout, which you do get to do. Go down to the bullpen. You do not need to be out here running the bases like you're a professional athlete.
All right, now, before you get out of here, you also get some goodies to take home with you, right? What do you have
You do.
here?
Well, you get a great-looking tote bag.
That is nice.
It really is
Really
nice.
nice.
You get a scarf that you also get to take home. And the other key thing besides the takeaways is you're raising money for the Reds Community Fund. And we all know what an important charity that is here. Charlie Frank and those folks there do such a great job. So your money's going to a good cause, too.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, I heard you on radio the other day. You handled this like a champ, even though you were in far less pleasant company, I think.
I know.
Don't you think, Chris?
I
got to be careful. I have to go home, too.
Absolutely done a great job. In fact, if Tom wants to take a vacation sometime, maybe I'll ask him if you can sit right there in that
I would
chair.
be happy to do it. I do have the right last name.
We could make that happen starting tomorrow night.
I think Cowboys work is due to work here pretty soon. It'd be a great combination. That way he could work with Brenneman and Brenneman.
That would be something.
I think we ought to start putting that in motion here in the next 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you.
You know what? I do have to say something. I saw Tucker Barnhart hit that home run. The last time I was on camera with you guys, Scooter hit 4 home runs. Marty happened to be off, so I'm counting on Tucker to hit 3 more tonight.
Maybe Marty ought to be off a little more.
Well, I think he would probably agree with you.
We will see you on Thursday night.
Great.
Thanks
for having
so much. That was
Thanks
great.
for having me. Thank
and
you.
ladies, you heard it from her.
Nice job, Amanda.
And again, that is coming up this Thursday. You can go to reds.com/baseball101. We thank Amanda Brenneman so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm telling you, if you come down, she's not selling you a bill of goods here. This thing is really a lot of fun. And she was right about, you know, look, when your boss comes to you and says 5 years ago, I can't believe it's been that long, but he says, hey, look, you know, the only night you're going to have off here in the next 3 weeks, we've got a thing going on at the ballpark. And you're sitting there going, you got to be kidding. But we got down here that night, and my dad and I happened to be in the main press box when the first group of women came in. And all of a sudden you're going, this is a lot of fun. And it got better and better and better and better. And I think all the ladies, and that's the most important thing, I think they had a great time. So a 2-out single by Lindor, who is now, or by Brantley, I beg your pardon, after the first 2 were retired in the inning.
I think it's Homer Bailey right now having a pretty great time. You know, all of his pitches seem to be working. He's finishing his pitches better tonight, Tom, than I've seen him really in any of his last 3 starts. Getting right out over his front knee, pulling down on that pitch when he throws the splitter, staying behind the fastball. That's a setup pitch right there. You throw that pitch as hard as you can, right across the letters. Hitter sees that, and you come right back now, probably with that splitter down and away. Now he wants the fastball in. Homer shakes him off to come inside here.
And that was not a good decision. It is down the line and gone. The beat goes on for Jose Ramirez. Home run number 35, and the Indians have a 2-1 lead.
Boy, didn't get out of here by much.
Nope.
He didn't hardly even hit it very hard, but he hit it to the right spot. Boy, and he's been doing that a lot.
35 of them.
Now, we showed you how Bailey shook off the slider, which is what Tucker Barnhart wanted. He wanted to come with an inside fastball right there and just did not get it in. And he's a guy hard to get the ball in on. He's got very short arms. He's a short, stocky guy with a quick swing. Hard guy to jam.
And you see already the most in Indians history by a switch hitter. And here we are, not even midway through the month of August. And there's a rocket into left center field that will go to the wall. And Yonder Alonso, against his one-time teammate, has a two-base hit. So after Bailey struck out the first two batters in the inning, it's been single, homer, double. So here's Melky Cabrera. He's played in 37 games for the Indians so far this year. Fly to center field, his first time up. Cabrera's had a very, very good major league career. He was, on the border of turning it into a great major league career. And then, of course, he had the situation with the PEDs. And now, once you go through something like that, people just look at you a little bit differently. Some teams may be reluctant to take a flyer on you. Can they count on you to be there for them over the course of an entire year? This guy at times in his career has been a really good player.
Yeah.
Pulled to the right side, and this will end the inning. But the Indians, after falling behind 1-0, get home run number 35 from Jose Ramirez and lead by a run. Star Super Suite. It's a climate-controlled space. You have an upscale buffet, unlimited water and Coke products, and more is perfect for groups of 35 to 55. Book today at reds.com/groups. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful night. Virtually no humidity, cool temperatures, and a 2-1 Cleveland lead in game 1 of 3 between the Reds and the Indians. Something going on with the door out there by the bullpen.
I wonder if that's where Phillip Ervin crashed when he tried to catch that home run ball hit by Ramirez. He went right into that door of the bullpen. I wonder if maybe he dislodged a hinge or a bolt down there. He went into that fence hard.
Sure did. And he's a tank.
There probably won't be another ball hit down there in 3 weeks.
You're probably right.
They may not be able to get the door open. Now that would be a problem.
So did they get it completely closed, or is it looks like it's just sort of, it's hard to tell from here. We had a shot down there. Looks like they're still working on it. Tell you, the guys that work around this ballpark in the different trades, whether they be the electricians, whether they be the carpenters, whether they be the welders, whether they be
painters.
Yeah, I mean,
plumbers.
they just do such a great job around this ballpark. Look where that's bent down there.
That's what we got right here.
Peraza really starting to settle in nicely to that leadoff spot. This year he's been in 45 games, over 200 plate appearances. He's been a .293 batter. His on-base percentage is almost .340. And his slugging percentage is over .420. So he's really done a nice job in that spot.
You know, he's found a little success. And, of course, we talk about how confidence helps you and so on. But what it's helped him do is maintain the same batting style. Last year he was struggling so much. He was experimenting with just about everything, including moving his back foot. As the ball was on its way to the plate, he would move his back foot from just inside the back line of the batter's box all the way to the back line, just so that it would remind him to stay back without getting out over the front of the plate. And now he keeps that foot perfectly still, and in so doing, he keeps his head still. He still has that little toe turn. If you look at the front foot, he's going to turn his toe in a little bit as that pitch comes, just to kind of stay back.
Ground ball to the shortstop. Second time Peraza's done that tonight. And that's the way things begin in the Cincinnati third inning. Here comes Joey Votto. He had a check swing. Roller that got by the mound. It skipped right past Clevenger. That ball is in the air and driven into deep center field. And that is up against the wall. And Joey, well, he is just not running well at all. He clearly is in a lot of discomfort with that right knee. I mean, he's hurt. There's no doubt about it.
And he gets it right on the barrel. Not a bad pitch by Clevenger down in the bottom part of the strike zone. And you can see him start to struggle with it right there. I mean, if you don't have your legs underneath you, you're basically swinging entirely with your arms, which is probably for Votto the difference between that ball staying in the ballpark and that ball leaving the ballpark.
All right, now Suarez with a chance to draw the Reds even, or perhaps even give him the lead with a long one. Of course, he has a whopping 88 runs batted in already this season. Nice souvenir there. Find more people, you know, it's funny, and I've said this forever, when people start taking these broadcasts way too seriously, and that includes those of us who sit up here and those of you at home that watch it. You could make 10,000 of the greatest calls in the history of play-by-play. Vin Scully, Dick Enberg, you could go on and on, Marty Brennan. There will be more people the next day that talk about that little kid catching that fly ball yesterday afternoon and the look on his face catching that home run ball that ran on every replay show in America last night and today. There was nothing better than that. Well, what a day I bet you he had. That'd have been really cool to follow him around today, and all the people who got in touch with him that saw him on TV, and that just riveting reaction. I mean, it was a blowout game. This kid was just incredible. And it went on and on and on. For those of you that didn't see it, look at it. Oh my God. And it went on and on. Priceless. Priceless.
He's telling everybody, I am not throwing that ball.
That's right.
Back.
Look at him. It just kept going and going, and our crew was just all over it. Brian Hunterman was directing that show, and Kent Dreamweaver producing that show, and we just kept coming back to that kid, and every time we'd show him the next reaction 2 minutes later, 4 minutes later, 8 minutes later was better than the reaction when he caught it. So now Scooter Gennett after the walk to Suarez. That's 2 walks in the game given up by Clevenger.
And Jan Gomes is going to go out here and remind him that he needs to start attacking the strike zone. One of the differences for Clevenger this year over last year is that he's cut his walks down from about 4.5 per 9 innings to under 3 per 9 innings. That extra walk and a half can mean a lot.
If a Red hits a home run off that Toyota sign tonight, Ken Wallace Jr. of Cincinnati will win that Tundra you see at the ballpark out in deep left center field. And that's thanks to your Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Toyota dealers. We've already given away 1 Tundra so far this year. And it's been a while. 2 on, 1 out for Scooter.
I think I know what you mean by Clevenger's fastball. You said earlier, Tom, about how it seems like it's a roll to Chapman. Chapman's fastball, even though it was ungodly fast anyway, 102 miles an hour, but it seemed to get on hitters faster because he got great extension. Same can be said for Clevenger. It just almost looks like it's still accelerating when it gets to home plate.
Mm-hmm. Gennett slams his bat into the ground, and that'll be an easy play in left center for Brantley.
Well, he got back-to-back fastballs there that he just didn't square up.
That's the one thing I like about Clevenger already and watching him in a short amount of time. Now, look, when you have a fastball that you throw 96, 97 miles per hour, okay, you know, you might say, well, yeah, you should be challenging guys. There are a lot of guys, though, Chris, that we see that throw 96, 97 that don't challenge anybody.
Well, true, but there's a deception there. Some guys are sneaky fast, and I think that's where you categorize him. He kind of reminds me of Jacob deGrom, the way his release is. Nothing else about the delivery is, but I mean, he gets way out over his front knee. He could even do a little bit better job of that. And that may come as he gets a little bit older and more games in the major leagues. A man from Jacksonville, Florida.
And that's down the line and a foul ball. Tucker, who played the long ball an inning ago, nearly delivered the goods again.
Got out ahead of it just a hair because it was a slider.
Ball and 1 strike, 2 on, 2 out. Barnhart homered to left center field for the only Reds run in the 2nd inning. Three balls and a strike. Good hitters count for Barnhart. Ooh, he got the fastball at 96. That's what we mean by Clevenger. He is just coming after you. Even on 3-1 counts, he's coming with a heat. This will be his 25th pitch in this inning, so he's had to work a little bit here in the 3rd.
He walks Suarez on a 3-2 slider. Now there was a base open, and maybe that had something to do with that. But any other time he's really needed a strike, he's come with the fastball. See if he backs it up right here to Barnhart.
Well, he went with a fastball there and missed to load him up.
Former Red, former Minnesota Twin, Carl Willis, who's been coaching as a major league pitching coach now for about 14 years. And he's one of these old school guys that has adapted to the new school numbers, all the analytics, but you know, he's not mincing words out here. He says, he's probably saying, you know, Mike, you're giving the hitters way too much credit right here. On a 3-2 count right there, you got to throw a strike. So now you got Mason Williams, left-handed hitter. He got a single off you the first time. Come right after him. And of course, the other thing that Carl Willis can say to his pitchers is that don't worry, this team's going to score some runs for you.
Well, but you can understand if he, you know, all of a sudden may not buy into the runs part because, I mean, the guy hadn't won a game since the beginning of July.
Well,
despite the fact that he has really, really pitched well for the Indians.
he's the only guy in the rotation that hasn't been winning the game.
Boy, you lied about that. I mean, these numbers for this starting rotation are, you almost can't believe it. But first things first, they are loaded for Mason Williams. And the Reds are down by a run, but 2 outs in the inning. Williams singled into right field his first time up. Well, since the visit, Clevenger jumps in front. No balls and 2 strikes. Reds looking for a 2-out, 2-strike hit. that doesn't come. Reds leave him loaded. Clevenger has fanned 4. He walks 2 and gives up a hit. Reds have left 5 in the last 2 innings.
The 4th inning. Now, last night, Washington versus Chicago. Max Scherzer had a great game. It's 3-0, bottom of the 9th inning, when David Bodie, only the 2nd player in MLB history to hit a walk-off grand slam when his team trailed 3-0. The other player to do it was a guy by the name of Samuel Berg for the Reds. May 23rd of 1936 versus the Pirates. But what a win for the Cubs last night, Tom, over the Nationals.
You know, it's so funny. And again, it's kind of getting back to what we were talking about a minute ago, and the reaction of the kid out there. The stuff kids remember. As soon as we got up this morning, our son Luke said to me, "Did you see that guy who hit the grand slam last night? The way he ran around the bases looked like he was an airplane."
Yeah.
Boy, was he excited. He should be excited.
Well, he was probably the only guy who was more excited about his day than that young man that caught the home run ball from Paul Goldschmidt.
You might be right on the nose on that.
I mean, how many times in your backyard have you been playing wiffle ball? And you do that, you know, with the bases loaded.
No doubt. It's the same as counting down, making that jump shot with the clock going down to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You got to hit it at the buzzer. All the different sports.
That was a well-pitched pitching duel. Max Scherzer, Cole Hamels.
Ripped into right field, a base hit.
He's always been able to hit a fastball. He's got one of the shorter swings that you'll ever see. Jason Kipnis does. I mean, right there, right to the ball. One of those left-handed hitters that is a really good high ball hitter. Keeps his bat flat as he sets it up.
So that'll bring up Yan Gomes. He drove a double to the gap in left center field his first time up. Reds got a home run by Barnhart in the 2nd inning. Cleveland gets a 2-run home run by Jose Ramirez, his 35th home run of the year. It came off Bailey in the 3rd. Ground ball pulled foul. Pitch almost hit him. 2 balls and 1 strike. Tell you what, that's a tough road trip for the Washington Nationals. They went from playing over the weekend in Chicago, and they are right back at it tonight to play the red-hot St. Louis Cardinals, who are now 8 games over 500 and winners of 5 in a row. They are just underway in St. Louis. Double play ball all the way here. Oh, boy. And you don't get a single out. Spoke too soon.
We haven't seen that happen to Jose Peraza very much at all. In fact, he may have been just a little bit anxious to get the ball to second baseman, but it doesn't get a lot easier than that DP lane ground ball. Tough break for Bailey there.
So here's Greg Allen, number 8 hitter, with 2 on and nobody out. And that's a balk. I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe the ball slipped out of his hand as he was starting to throw it to the plate. Well, he reached in, didn't even have the ball in his
I'm not sure
hand.
what happened there. Forgot to put the baseball in his hand. I don't think I've ever seen that.
All right, so now second and third with nobody out. That changes this inning dramatically. This is a huge batter for Bailey. You have the pitcher next. If you can find a way to get a strikeout, a pop-up, something like that. I was getting ready to say, watch out for this guy, Button. And that is a double play. Oh, he got back.
Why not just tag the bag?
Yeah, I thought Suarez was standing on the bag. He was not able to get back there in time. And so he had to reach and try and make the tag.
The heads-up play by Bailey. Comes off the mound, knows immediately what he's going to do. Doesn't even have to look around right there. And you see Suarez trying to slide his foot there so that Kipnis couldn't get back to the bag. He just unable to block his way back there. If you're wondering, are you allowed to block the bag like that? The answer is yes.
All right, so at least you get 1 out. And now you'll keep the infield in with the pitcher up there. Clevenger only 3 at-bats the entire year. He's 0 for 3, struck out swinging his first time up tonight.
Boy, if you can get out of this jam right here, you're really pull a rabbit out of your hat.
Strike 1.
Why wouldn't you safety squeeze right here if you're Terry Francona? Just have him bunt down the first baseline. Votto's not running very well. He's playing in, but he's not playing so far in that he's taking the bunt temptation away from him. I mean, he's playing right there on the edge of the grass. Oh, you're Clevenger, maybe he can't bunt. Well, what do you have to lose?
Only 7 plate appearances as a professional. That includes his minor league days for Clevenger. He has 1 sacrifice. And no hits.
Oh, I would think that you learn how to bunt before you learn how to hit. Like
most pitchers these days can't do either one. We were talking about that with Rick Manning before the game today. He said, you know, all these interleague games he sees, he says, heck, I know the American League pitchers can't bunt. He says, I haven't seen any National League pitchers that can bunt. That is strike 3. A foul tip and then right into the mid of Tucker Barnhart. So one more out to go, and it's a tough out. But one more to go for Homer Bailey.
Well, the Reds have already given the Indians 4 outs in this inning. So it'll be one really nice quality bit of work here if Bailey can get out of this one.
You could make an argument you even gave him 5 outs in the inning.
Well, if you get another out,
yeah,
it'll be 5 outs.
Right. But it's a flip of the coin. The hardest out in this lineup. Well, we talked about Ramirez hitting number 35. Lindor is sitting on 29 home runs. He has 74 runs batted in. He has 39 doubles. And is nearly a 300 batter. That ball went halfway into the upper deck. I know it's a foul ball, but you don't see many foul balls hit up there.
Well, pulled up there, and I'm not so sure those people who bought tickets way up there thought they were getting a souvenir tonight.
It's a pretty good bet. Two balls and a strike on Francisco Lindor. It's a big out for Bailey. Pulled foul, and after falling behind 2-0, he now goes to 2-2.
So he's got Lindor ahead of his breaking ball just a little bit. Few chance trying to sneak a fastball by him. He did not bite on a high fastball earlier in the count. He struck out last time up on a slider. There was the slider.
All right, 3 balls and 2 strikes. You do have a base open here. They're coming in. It looked like at least that's where Barnhart initially set up. Doesn't mean he wasn't going to shift to the other side before the pitch was delivered. And now yet another visit, 2 of them in the inning, between Bailey and Tucker Barnhart.
Lindor was taken in the 2011 draft. Boy, was that ever a very fruitful draft for really a lot of different major league teams. Garrett Cole was the #1 pitcher taken, #1 player taken that year. Trevor Bauer was taken by the Diamondbacks. 3rd pick, Anthony Rendon, Archie Bradley, we just saw him, Javier Baez. Lindor was one pick ahead of Baez as the 8th pitcher in the draft. The Reds didn't pick until like 23rd or 4th and got Robert Stevenson 27th in that round.
Three balls, 2 strikes on Lindor. And here it comes from Bailey. Boy, and this lengthy inning continues. And remember, it should have been over a long time ago. A rare defensive miscue by Peraza at shortstop. on an easy double play off the bat of Jan Gomes. And ever since then, Bailey retired 2 in a row. A walk to Lindor and still a chance to get out of this inning without giving up a single run.
You know, nobody hoping more for that than Jose Peraza.
In there, strike 1.
Great get-ahead pitch.
Nothing and 1 on Michael Brantley. Bases loaded for the Indians. And now it's 0-2.
That's a splitter. Unusual spin right there. Looks like a knuckleball that has too much spin on it, boy, but it drops right off the table. Gotta have a catcher that'll block it. You throw another one right here, see if he chases.
No balls and 2 strikes to count. Came with a fastball, and Brantley stays alive. Mark Wegner, by the way, calling the balls and strikes tonight. We failed to mention that earlier. John Tumpane at first. Jim Reynolds is at second base. Chad Whitson is at third. And Mark Wegner is the crew chief. Bases loaded for the Indians. Oh, and 2 the count on Michael Brantley. And how about Homer Bailey? That's getting it done. Pitches around in air, and the Indians leave them loaded, failing to score. Well done by Bailey. Brought to you by O'Charlie's, home of the Free Pie Wednesdays. By your local Ford dealer, Ford Go Further. And by Cincinnati Children's, now ranked number 2 in the nation by U.S. News and World Report. All right, so both teams in their most recent at-bat leave the bases loaded. Clevenger struck out Mason Williams to end the third, and then in the 4th inning, Homer Bailey pitches around in air. Indians load him up. He gets Michael Brantley on a ground ball at Scooter Gennett, so the Reds will bat last of the 4th inning. Still trailing the Indians 2-1.
You know, usually you talk about momentum innings being those in which your team scores. But that one we just saw with Homer Bailey, you know, wiggling out of that jam despite the defense behind him, that is as good a defensive momentum inning as you're ever going to see.
And Irvin bangs one into center field, a base hit. That's a 4th hit for the Reds tonight against Clevenger.
Ball hit hard,
really hard.
They've been trying to pitch him away. I think Clevenger just got this ball, you know, middle of the plate right there. Irvin will take a hack now. He's got some serious bat speed.
All right, so that'll bring up Preston Tucker, who bats in the 8th spot. Homer Bailey is due up next. Tucker walked his first time up. And this one straight up in the air. He threw him a fastball, and Tucker was late on it. Brantley comes in to get it. Well, why not stop by the Holy Grail at the Banks this Friday night? Our buddy Mo Egger from 700 WLW will be part of the Reds Fan Cam. It's a chance to answer Reds trivia, win prizes, be a part of Reds Live. The Fan Cam begins at 6 on Friday. That's a great spot, the Holy Grail. Bailey pops it up. Out number 2.
You know, I'm wondering sometimes, Tom, you got the pitcher bunting that ball, and you've got a very speedy runner at first base. If you think about it ahead of time, and Yonder Alonso would be the guy that I would think that he would be thinking along those lines. Pitcher has enough to think about, you know, just throwing the baseball over the plate. But if you get the pitcher to pop a ball up like that, why not let that baby drop, throw to second base? Because Irvin is standing on the bag. He doesn't want to get doubled up. And now you have Homer Bailey running the bases instead of Phillip Irvin.
But you know as well as I do, right? I mean, this is one of those things where, you know, and there are different examples in different sports. The first time you do it, though, and all of a sudden you go to let it drop, and it bounces off the heel of your glove and rolls into foul ground, but it's a fair ball because you touched it in fair ground. You know what I mean? I agree with you 100%, but you know what I'm saying.
It's got to be almost unique, but you know, where you know the ball is going to be in fair territory and that you're right there to get it, and the runner is standing on first base and not halfway to second. All those things have to, you know, it's a kind of play that I remember like Keith Hernandez would do.
Yes.
Or Mark Grace would do. One of the really good, heady players of your era, you know.
Now I got a rules question for you, because I bet you there's some people right now sitting at home, saying, hey, could you let it like fall into your glove and then just let it fall to the ground? You know what I'm getting at here, right? Are you allowed to do that?
Well, you can have it bounce off your glove, but you can't catch it and then drop it intentionally, no.
Okay. There goes Irvin. He got an incredible jump. And Peraza swung through the pitch, which makes you wonder if that was a hit and run of some kind. I mean, Irvin. We don't get to see him run a lot. But, man, did he get off and moving there? Such a powerfully built young man. Strong, thick,
Football
fast.
player.
Yeah. He looks like a safety. And there he goes again. He came off the bag. No, he's able to keep the hand on it. Look at that. He's a good, well, what is he, 6 feet tall, and you extend the arms another couple of 2.5. He's 8 feet by the bag.
But he's running so hard, his momentum took him right by the bag. You know, the infielders are now forcing you to take the outside. Look where Kipnis is. He's in the baseline. And if he could have just got that glove in front of the bag instead of going to try to get Irvin as he goes by the bag right there, just go ahead and tag the bag. Irvin gets his right hand in, the old swim move.
That's pretty sweet right there.
Good camera work.
Great camera work. Right hand in there. Kipnis.
A couple of guys playing in the dirt.
Second inning in a row, you got the tying run out there in scoring position. Actually, the third inning in a row, because the Reds put a couple of on after the home run by Barnhart in that second inning. I beg your pardon. They had taken a 1-0 lead. The Indians in the third got the 2 runs. So it is a second inning in a row where the Reds have a chance to tie this thing up. And the runner now will advance on to third. I don't think Gomes had a chance to get to that pitch. It'll be a wild pitch.
That's what happens when you try to throw a pitch 110 miles an hour, but you can really only throw it about 96 miles an hour.
And by the way, that pitch was ball 4 on the batter. So that's 4 walks now for Clevenger. 2 on, 2 out for Votto, who grounded to short and doubled to straightaway center field. Fastball high, ball 1 to Joey.
Clevenger clearly overthrowing in this inning.
And his pitch count is really piling up. He's closing in on 80, and we're just in the 4th inning. Breaking ball, didn't miss by much. But 2 balls and no strikes on Joey Votto. That was only the 3rd extra base hit for Votto since 2 series before the All-Star break. That double he had his last time up. And all 3 of them have been doubles. He has not homered since very early in the month of July. Of course, he did hit a home run, come to think of it, in the All-Star game. Fastball up and away. 3 balls and a strike. But the last home run he hit was against these Cleveland Indians. That's how long ago it's been. July the 9th. That was a full week before the All-Star break. 3 balls and a strike to Votto. Runners on the corners, 2 out. Boy, and all of a sudden that guy we said was challenging everybody, all of a sudden he's doing a lot of nibbling around here. He's now walked 5 batters. 4 of them in the last 2 innings. And another visit by the pitching coach.
I'll tell you, I really think a lot of that has to do with that hard hit ball that Phillip Ervin had to start the inning off. I mean, Clevenger tried to run up the ladder with a hard fastball, and he got turned around right now by Ervin. And that can sometimes be a little unnerving for a pitcher. You're thinking, oh, I'm not throwing hard enough. I'm going to have to throw a little bit harder. Able to get a fly out from Tucker, a pop out on an attempted bunt by Homer Bailey, and then, you know, threw the ball to backstop on ball 4 to Peraza. Was really nowhere close there with Votto.
So Suarez.
If I'm advising Suarez, I'm a former pitcher, probably shouldn't be doing this, but you've got to be ready on the very first pitch right here. Carl Willis didn't go out there to tell him, pitch to this guy carefully.
88 runs batted in for Suarez. He's the first Red over 118 games since Ken Griffey Jr. to have that many RBIs at this point in the year. And he was ready, but he got a first pitch breaking ball.
He did.
How about that?
Pretty good swing on that, though, Suarez did.
People forget Ken Griffey Jr.'s first year with the Reds in 2000. He had 100 runs batted in the first 118 games.
Wow.
Suarez, an 0-1 count. And there's a gas. Up.
Well, that's what struck out Suarez the first time up. 2-2 count, ran the 4-seamer up, and Suarez swung right through it.
Reds have loaded the bases for a second consecutive inning. They stranded 2 in the second inning, 3 in the third. They have 3 on here in the fourth, and they're down by a run. Clevenger will be lucky to get through 5 innings here tonight. 85 pitches already in the game. 1-2 the count on Suarez. Well, here's your money pitch, chances are. I mean, obviously you can go to 3-2, but pitchers don't like to go there, especially with the bases loaded.
Everybody's trying to calm him down. First it was the pitching coach, and you see Yan Gomes going halfway out there.
And Clevenger dives on the weak roller off the end of the bat. Back-to-back innings. The Reds leave them loaded. Indians still lead by a run.
to August 13th, 1931. Tony Cuccinello set the Reds record with 6 hits in a game against the Boston Braves. Cuccinello had a triple, 2 doubles, 3 singles, 5 RBI in the 17-3 win. It's a record that still stands today. Told you earlier about a Reds coach whose son did pretty well. How about Casey Kelly, the son of bench coach Pat Kelly? He made his major league debut pitching for the San Francisco Giants Saturday night. The former first-round pick of the Boston Red Sox pitched in relief. How about this, Tommy Chris? 5 innings of 2-hit baseball, 3 strikeouts. He threw 58 pitches, 42 of them for strikes.
Wow.
What a debut.
No doubt. Congratulations to the entire clan. I mean, his mom is as good as they get, man. I mean, the two of them, some of the stories, we wound up sitting next to them one night after a game and talking about all the places that he and his wife have gone through together, married very, very young. And you go back and look at Pat Kelly's managing career in the minor leagues. He was in a different city every year for close to 11 years in a row. And they already had young children. And some of the stories were just remarkable. I mean, everywhere from Montana to Canada to Florida to California and all points in between.
Well, I think that one of the stories was that his son Casey, I think, has some older brothers or sisters. And it got towards the end of the year. There was about 3 weeks left in the season. And his wife said, I'm done.
Right.
I'm going back to Florida. I'm
That's
going
right.
home. I'm going to leave Casey here with you. And he was 4 years old.
That's right.
And so here, Pat Kelly is managing the team. He had to take a 4-year-old.
I think it was in New York.
Everywhere he went.
Yeah.
And he said it was a great experience. Now, Casey, by the way, that wasn't his major league debut. It was his major league debut with the Giants. He's 28 years old now, Casey is. He made his debut when he was 22. High round draft pick, first round pick. Remember, he was going to be a quarterback, I believe, at the University of Tennessee.
Yes, that's right.
Great athlete coming out of Sarasota. Been beset by a lot of injuries and worked through them all. Congratulations to Casey Kelly.
Ramirez taps out to Votto to begin the inning.
And congratulations also to a young lady, and you may know her, Tom. Her name is Becky Schwartz. And for 30 years, she's been a cashier at the Kroger in Madera. And if you've ever shopped at that store, you'll know Becky because she's got the biggest smile of anybody you'll ever see in there. And I want to wish her happy birthday. She's moving this week. And not an easy week, but having a great time every time I go in there. And Becky, keep smiling, young lady, and happy birthday.
I'm going to tell you what, that's a serious locals Kroger now.
Yes, it is.
I mean, they sort of make fun of that around the whole Kroger world. That when you walk in that Madeira store, you better be from around those parts. I mean, they get a little coffee area in there and hold it, right?
Uh-huh.
Right? All right, Becky, happy birthday.
Well, you ought to know. You and your dad are Mr. Kroger.
Oh, yeah.
1 and 1A.
Well, I'm just keeping a seat warm for Uncle Joe, who left us far too young.
Indeed.
But that Madeira Kroger, they got it going on up there. Two and 0 on Yonder Alonso. Alonso is flied out to left, and then he doubled the left center field his last time up. Bailey rearing back and finding 95 and throwing that one right by Alonso. That one tagged, a laser to right, but there to get it is Irvin. Man, was that ball hit.
The previous pitch was 95. That one measured on the radar gun here at the ballpark at 96. Tough to throw it by these guys nowadays.
You know, we were talking earlier, and our statistician Joe Luckup reminded me of, we talking about Melky Cabrera and the PED suspension. It's a lot longer than I remember it being. It's 2012, and he was leading the National League in hitting, playing for the Giants, as I remember that year, and he's batting nearly 350. But Cabrera requested to not be eligible to win the batting title, even if he had the best average in the league, because of the suspension, and the league said, you got it. That was a big hit that year, too, for the Giants. But they got through it just fine. Thank you. You stop and think about that for a minute. That was the season, of course, the Reds jumped on the Giants in the division series 2-0. And the Giants had to play during that postseason, which, of course, they eventually won the World Series. But they had to play without the best hitter in the league, at least up until his suspension.
Well, he had been previously, that previous winter, traded by Kansas City over to San Francisco. And that's why it really stung so much.
Here's Kipnis. Buster Posey wound up winning the batting title when it was, I'm not going to call it forfeited. It's a stand-up move by Cabrera, whether you like him or don't like him. It's a stand-up move because he could have been technically awarded the batting title. His teammate ended up winning it, Buster Posey, and of course he won the MVP.
Well, what an embarrassment for the league that would have been.
Oh, yeah. Purchase the Ohio Cup ticket package presented by the Ohio Lottery. 2 more days of it. You get an exclusive Reds t-shirt and your ticket to tomorrow's game. This limited edition t-shirt, and it's cool, is only available through this offer. Purchase today at Reds.com/themes. The Natty versus the Land. It's a cool looking t-shirt. Well, the Natty will come to bat here in the bottom of the 5th inning. Reds have left 8 runners on base the last 3 innings.
This has been one of those games. We've seen 15 runners left on base between the Indians and the Reds, and a 2-1 game. I mean, pitchers have just been wriggling out of trouble left and right. I mean, it really looked like Clevenger was going to implode last inning.
But he got down to business, and really, that was a dominating at bat he had pitching against Suarez. He started him with a first pitch breaking ball, which I don't think Suarez was looking for. There's a drive into right field, and we are tied. For our Built for Baseball, brought to you by T-Mobile. Scooter built for the long ball. Knew it soon as it left the bat, so did the Cleveland right-hander. Tucker Barnard homered back in the second inning. That was into left center field, and then Tucker drew a walk in the third for Jeanette. That's his 18th home run, 69 runs batted in now for Scooter Jeanette.
Had another home run on a breaking ball. He has had a good year for that.
And there's ball four. That is a whopping 6 walks in this game for Clevenger. And
poor Carl Williams. He just had a knee replacement in October. He's giving it a pretty good workout here tonight.
Well, they have the flame-throwing left-hander Andrew Miller getting ready in their bullpen. Last time the Reds played the Indians, you may remember, he was on the disabled list. He's had a knee problem that goes back to last year. And really, they took all the time and then some to get him back.
Sure.
We brought it up yesterday that it is a really down year for the American League Central. Now, they had 2 playoff teams a year ago. Minnesota played that wild card game, and you know, through the years, it's been a pretty competitive division. Kansas City's had a good run. Detroit's had good runs. But this year, it's just brutal. The second place team, Minnesota, is 9 games under 500. So the Indians have had such a big lead that they can really take their time with a lot of guys that are beat up.
Well, the Indians have really fed a lot on the bad teams in that division. I mean, between Detroit, the White Sox,
and the Royals,
and the Kansas City Royals, they're 29-7. They're 37-17 versus the Central. But I mean, just the weakest links in that division, 29-7.
All right, so now the batter is Mason Williams, and Clevenger is going to hang in there. The 6 walks, by the way, tonight for Clevenger, a career high. In nearly 150 innings coming into the game tonight, he had walked 46. That's still a pretty high number. You'd like to see that number come down a little bit. But he is all over the map after looking really sharp through the front 3 innings of this game. Two balls and no strikes. Popped up. Tardy on a 2-0 fastball, and that fastball has lost some of its mustard on it. He was throwing 96, 97 early in the game, and he's been pretty much pitching right around 93 the last couple of innings. Now Irvin, he turned around that Clevenger fastball with a single in the center field in the 4th inning, wound up stranded at third base. Well, he tried to jump all over another first pitch fastball there. We are only in the bottom of the 5th inning. A 2-2 game. Good breaking ball there. 0-2 on Urban.
Well, had a hanger right there, Irvin did, and just couldn't get around in time. You know, there's a couple of components. There's 3 actually to a good breaking ball. One is the spin rate. One, of course, is the location, but the other is the axis of the spin. And the home run ball that he gave up to Scooter Gennett looked like it was just spinning sideways. And as you get tired, though, your arm gets down low, and that's where you spin up those sideways.
Double play ball here. And that will do it for the Redlegs. In the 5th. A game-tying home run by Scooter. 2-2 at the end of 5. What has been Phillip Urban's key to his success since the All-Star break? The Reds Hall of Fame struck gold this past weekend. Plus, we'll get an up-close look at the unique experiences you can have at Reds Fantasy Camp. Reds Weekly presented by Miami Valley Gaming. A new episode coming up Wednesday at 6 right here on Fox Sports Ohio, streaming on Fox Sports Go. And Chris, I can't remember if you said that this year you were going back to the fantasy camp.
I don't think so. No, I think the staff, the roster of staff members have already been put together.
Oh, okay.
Did not make the cut again.
Well, that's too bad.
But there are a couple of spaces left for players. And I'm looking at you, Tom.
Not happening, my man. Simply not happening. One of these days it'll happen.
You relive the old Midland days.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's when I was playing with Jimmy Laritz. I think that proved quickly I didn't belong. There's a fly ball to center field, 1 out. As you enjoy perhaps a Miller Lite tonight, you can look forward to the Whole True Moment presented by Miller Lite coming up later on. Reds a couple of solo home runs. Homer Bailey has pitched well here tonight. He gave up the 2-run home run to Ramirez in the 3rd inning. But he pitched out of a bases loaded jam, out of key error behind him. which put runners at first and second, nobody out. And then second and third with one out. He got out of the inning. Actually, it was second and third with nobody out. I beg your pardon, because he had the balk that got him to third. He got a pop-up on a bunt attempt. He struck out the pitcher, and after a walk to Lindor, he got Brantley on a ground ball to second base. Allen shoots it down the left field line, and he can fly. But what a play made out there in left by Preston Tucker. Now, he was shaded that way. But my, oh my, did he get to that ball quickly, and he's not known necessarily for his defense.
You may want to keep an eye on Greg Allen. He's got 8 stolen bases down there, and you're right when you say he can fly. Got a big lead at first base.
Yandy Diaz is the pinch hitter for the pitcher.
Just called him up.
Just called him up today. And not in time. You mentioned Allen can run.
Boy, Barnhart did a nice job on this, though. I mean, it was almost kind of a modified pitch out. And he just got the break on the pitcher right there. It just goes to show you how close, though, it is. When you start adding up pop time, that's the catcher getting the ball to second base, the pitcher's release time. I mean, it's 100th of a second.
All right, so Diaz waiting. Diaz, a total of 5 games this year. And boy, he has knocked the cover off of it when they give him a chance every now and again to play. A couple of trips, 10 for 19, 4 runs batted in. That's a .526 batting average for Yandy Diaz. Swinging a foul ball out of play. He was playing for Columbus, and over the last couple of weeks with the Indians AAA team, he was on a .360 batting average roll. And he was officially called up yesterday, not today. Swinging a foul ball off again. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Diaz. Diaz just turned 27. He's been in the Indians organization for a long time.
Now, they signed him out of Cuba, 2013.
In the dirt, Allen thought about it and decides not to.
Done a pretty good job, Diaz has, of not chasing that little teaser pitches that Bailey's been throwing outside there.
Two game. 100 pitches on the night now for Homer Bailey. And we are in the top of the 6th inning. And now Diaz wants timeout. Payoff pitch coming to Yandy Diaz. Foul tipped, pops out of the mid of Tucker Barnhart. Three balls, 2 strikes. A count on Diaz once more. And here it comes from Homer Bailey, runner at second base in a 2-2 game. And that is launched into left center field. That will be up against the wall. Scoring is Allen. 3-2 Cleveland on a pinch hit run scoring double by Yandy Diaz. Man, oh man, how do they keep this guy in the minor league so long?
I'll tell you what, this is the best swing he had in the entire at bat. It was just a hanging off speed pitch. Don't know if it was a splitter or a slider. Just a slider that just did not move one bit. Now, that's the kind of pitch you dream about.
Amir Garrett getting loose now in the Reds bullpen. And I think he's coming into the game now. And Bailey just turns and drops his head straight down when he saw his manager come walking out of the dugout after what is now an intentional walk to Francisco Lindor. He's a switch hitter, so they're going to have Amir Garrett come on to face a left-handed batting Michael Brantley. Bailey goes 5 1/3 innings. So far charged with 3 runs. This will be our Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. Amir Garrett hits a jump shot and he's on his way in. And our StatCast AI powered by AWS. The Diaz double. Over 109 miles per hour. So now Amir Garrett will come on to face Michael Brantley. You see the numbers on Garrett. He's had a good year. He had a great start, cooled off a little, and has been a little better again lately.
You know, at the beginning of a series, relievers always get together and you realize that certain teams, if you're left-handed, you're going to be in there a lot. And Garrett had to realize when the Indians rolled into town with all the left-handed hitters that they have, he and Wandy Peralta might be the 2 most popular names called down there. over the next 3 nights.
You say nights as Brandon Dixon comes into the game to replace Phillip Urban, part of the double switch. He'll bat in the 9th spot, which means he's due up second when the Reds bat in the bottom of the 6th inning. And that went off the, looked like the glove of Votto near the end of the glove. It was a rocket that will score one. They'll hold Lindor at third base on an RBI double by Michael Brantley. And that makes it 4-2 Indians.
Well, he got behind the Brantley 2-0 count, and Brantley looking fastball. Very little movement in the batter's box. Doesn't even lift his leg. But he rips the bat head through the zone and drives it down the right field line.
Of course, that run charged to Homer Bailey, and the guy standing at third base belongs to him too. Now they're going to intentionally walk Ramirez. He's a switch hitter to get to the left-handed batting Yonder Alonso.
Always puts a little extra pressure on the pitcher when you walk the bases loaded here in this inning. You've only got one out. Alonso has a pretty good eye at the plate, always has.
Alonso had a home run taken away in the series he just wrapped up against the Chicago White Sox. Many of you probably saw it.
Legitimate home run stolen away.
Quickly 0-2. Take a look at this. Adam Engel in straightaway center field. That's going to get him. He's made a couple of those this week. He made one in left center the other night. Nice. Yonder didn't think it was very nice. Those are those old school White Sox unis. Those look pretty nice. And I believe Engel is a product of Loveland High School. How about that? The Tigers. Beautiful country up there. And my oh my, has that area grown. Mercy, mercy. They've gone from a little small country school to now a Division II power in just about everything. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Yonder Alonso.
Oh my. Sometimes you throw a pitch so fast even the umpire doesn't see it.
Mark Wegner behind the plate. Two balls, 2 strikes on Alonso with the bases loaded, 1 out. And almost hit him. Full count.
He had 2 really good pitches in this at bat to start the at bat off, and they were sliders. They're trying to polish them off with a fastball, and needs a strike right here.
Three balls, 2 strikes, nowhere to put him. And he came back with a slider and got him swinging.
Really good pitch there.
So that's a first out recorded by Garrett. He gave up the RBI double to Brantley, an intentional walk, and now a big 3-2 pitch, a slider down and away from Alonso. But 1 more out to go, and he'll face Melky Cabrera. 1 for 3, had a single his last time up. He too is a switch batter and will hit from the right side here against Garrett. Strike one. Cabrera, right-handed, is a .310 batter this year. He has triple the number of at-bats from the left side, where he's only hitting in the 220s. And a base hit into center field. Will drive in one. Here comes the trail runner. Not going to be in time off the side of the mound. Throw to second, safe there. Back to third, safe there. Two-run single to make it 6-2. Cleveland on a base hit by Melky Cabrera.
Yeah, they just keep adding on and adding on. A pitch right down the middle there for Cabrera. Little slider that just kind of hung right there in the hitting zone.
Five of his 6 runs will be charged to Homer Bailey. And now we have a pinch runner coming on to run is Brandon Geyer. And the night is over for Melky Cabrera, a 2-hit night. A 4-run Indian 6th inning after the Reds had just tied the game on a Scooter Gennett home run in the bottom of the 5th. Straight away center field off the bat of Kipnis. And that will sail over the head. 2 runs will score on a 2-run double, a 6-run Cleveland 6th inning. Boy, and they are hitting rockets off of Amir Garrett tonight.
Now this one a fastball, and Kipnis hit a fastball his last time up for a sharp base hit. This one though was really pounded. Right up against the center field wall on one hop. This is what the Indians do. I mean, they get that big offensive roll going and they just never look back. This looks a lot like the team that put 19 on the board against the Reds back up in Cleveland earlier this season.
Yeah, it was the final game of that series when the Reds were going for the sweep. All right, so the man who started this inning, believe it or not, with a fly ball that was caught by the center fielder Williams, is Yan Gomes. Since in, Allen had a single, stole a base. Diaz had a pinch hit double to break the tie. And there's a rocket down the left field line by Gomes. It'll bring in another run. 9-2 Cleveland, a 7-run 6th inning, which continues. Here's some of the numbers, Chris, you were talking about. You know, they can hit. They can hit. And they run.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing, really, is that they hit, but they run also. Of course, they've got excellent starting pitching. The Achilles heel for them this year has been their bullpen, but they think that they may have that figured out. They added a couple of pieces, including Brad Hand from San Diego, so they've got a couple of capable closer types down there. And Miller coming off the DL. This whole ball club looks a lot better than it did a month ago. And they were pretty good a month ago. I'm not sure what you'd tell Amir Garrett if you're Danny Darwin.
Indians sitting on 9 runs and 14 hits, and we are only in the 6th inning. And mercifully, it looks like it will come to an end. 11 come to the plate, 7 of the 11 score. Well, the Indians have busted this one wide open. The Reds and the Giants. You can be here as low as $12 and stick around after the game. We'll have the big fireworks show presented by Sprint. For tickets, visit Reds.com. Brandon Geyer came in to run a moment ago for Melky Cabrera. He'll just stay in the game and take over in right field. And now on to pitch. We did not see him earlier this year. Certainly one of the most dominant weapons out of any bullpen in all of Major League Baseball, and that is left-hander Andrew Miller. Been battling a knee problem even going back to last year, but who could forget the way this guy pitched during that run through the 2016 postseason.
Incredible year really overall for Miller that year. 468 games for this, what, 33-year-old left-hander. Originally signed by the Detroit Tigers, been traded all over the place. I mean, here's a guy that early in his career, he had some kind of major control problems. I mean, he was averaging 5, 6, 7 walks per 9 innings when he was with Detroit. Spent 3 seasons with Florida, a few seasons with Boston. But boy, did he ever get it together when he came over here with Cleveland.
Nice to see the Hall of Famer back in town, Joe Morgan.
Indeed, looking good too.
He really is looking good. Really is looking good.
Well, this is a slider. When you Google up slider, left-handed slider, Andrew Miller pops up.
Well, you know, it's funny, Chris, because you played with Randy Johnson when he came to the big leagues. Now, this guy, if I remember right, you talked about being drafted by Detroit. He was out of the University of North Carolina, if I remember right. Isn't that
You're
right?
Yes,
and
he was.
a big high draft pick, right?
First round. First
round.
player taken overall.
So, you know, I just remember when he was drafted, you know, everybody said this guy's going to be the next Randy Johnson. He was a starter in those days. And you remember better than anybody because you saw it firsthand. Johnson couldn't find a plate either.
It took him a long time. It took him until his mid-20s before he figured out his delivery. Now, he's not quite as tall as Randy Johnson. He's 6'7". What was Randy? Was 6'10"?
Yeah. That one hooked down the left field line by Brandon Dixon. And he will coast in with a 2-base hit, his first at bat of the night.
It really takes a lot of patience. And for some reason or another, it maybe even more for left-handers than for right-handers. But that's a great example with Randy Johnson.
I just remember everybody saying he was going to be that guy, and then you mentioned he starts getting traded and this and that, and he can't find a plate. And then all of a sudden, hearing about the last 4 years, I think it really turned around, if I remember right, when he went to the Yankees.
It did.
And that's when he became a guy that nobody wanted to face.
And he was 30 years old at that time. So he breaks into the major leagues at 21, and it's not until he's 30 that he turns into the guy that everybody thought he was going to be. You know, when he was drafted at age 20 or 21, 2003.
It's interesting. Really interesting. And, you know, it brings to mind, Chris, the Reds today made a roster move. They sent Maya back to the minor leagues, and they bring up Cody Reed. Now, there's a name from the past. Kind of came over in the Cueto deal. He and Finnegan are the only two guys left from that deal, and both of them basically have just been in AAA purgatory, especially Reed, for a long time. Knocked down at third, but no play for Ramirez. I mean, Finnegan's a whole different story because Lord knows what's happened to him, but he's given up more runs than innings pitched so far this year since they sent him to AAA. But back to Cody Reed.
Well, Cody Reed's another, you know, example of why you need patience. If you're a farm director, that might be the biggest quality that you have is patience. And not only patience in the player, but patience trying to convince the front office above you, hey, you know, let's just be quiet with this guy for a little while.
Votto a pop up in the left. 2 down in the inning. Now Eugenio Suarez. This is a big at bat here for the Reds. I mean, they're down a ton, but we are just in the 6th inning, and we saw that monster comeback the Reds had up in Cleveland earlier this year. So Cody Allen came into that game, and the next thing you know, there are hits and runs being scored every time you turn around. Fastball in there, a strike to Suarez. And very good in any situation, every situation. He's just having a great year. But he wants to finish strong. I mean, you have a chance to make it a really special year. Johnny Bench used to talk all the time. You know, hey, you know, those guys that knock in 100, that's fine. But you play in 162 games. He used to say, give me the guy that knocks in 120.
Well,
and Suarez has a legitimate chance.
He does have a chance, but it gets tougher and tougher when you play on a team that is not winning ball games. Because, you know, this time of year, if your team doesn't win, the ball club has a tendency to go in a lot of different directions. Some guys are playing for salary drives. Some guys are worried about being in the big league. Some guys are thinking about being a free agent and so on. And you don't have the team unit that you have on a ball club that's winning.
Oh, what a nice play that is by Lindor. We played 6. Indians lead it big.
It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Well, follow each and every Reds game right here on Fox Sports Ohio. Then stick around right after for Reds Live, brought to you by Performance Kings Honda. We'll break it all down. A couple of changes for the Reds. Votto is out. Casale will bat 7th and take over at first base. And now on the pitch, you said we might hear his name a lot along with Amir Garrett's during this series, is left-hander Wandy Peralta. Garrett in 2/3 of an inning gave up 4 runs and 4 hits. Walked 1 intentionally and struck out about it. Bailey charged with 5. Rajai Davis will lead things off here in the Cleveland 7th inning, batting for the pitcher Andrew Miller. Miller 1 inning, a couple of hits and a strikeout, no runs. Gone swinging is Davis to start the Cleveland 7th inning. And there a strike to Lindor. He's been on base 3 times tonight. 1 hit in 2 at bats. He's walked twice, once intentionally. And it's in there, a breaking ball strike, 1-2. Base hit in left field, 4th time he's been on base tonight. Here's Brantley. Brantley, a couple of hits, knocked in a run in that 7-run 6th inning, and he has scored twice tonight.
Well, it was Brantley that had really one of the biggest at-bats. He was the first batter that Amir Garrett faced, and I think it was a 1-2 pitch that he threw that looked like it had caught plenty of the plate. And it went for a ball. He ended up hitting a double down the right field line after that. But you got to figure that Amir Garrett's in that dugout thinking, man, what do I have to do to get a strike called here? And then the floodgates opened after that.
1-2 pitch. They sure did, because after he had that double, he had an intentional walk. Then Garrett got a strikeout of Yonder Alonso, and you're thinking, okay, that was the second out of the inning, but then it turned into 2-run single, 2-run double, RBI double before getting the third out of the inning.
There's an example, really, where one pitch makes a huge difference.
Well, I tell you what, Brantley doesn't appear to be bothered by left-handed pitchers at all. Of course, that was a hanging breaking ball, so there are probably a lot of left-handers that would have hit that pitch.
Well, you still have to hang in there even to hit a hanger. I mean, it was moving away from him. It was hanging because it was high. Anytime you throw it thigh high, I mean, a good hitter is going to do it. But I've always wondered, had Michael Brantley not been injured, significant leg injuries, and then a shoulder injury as well, what kind of career he may have put together, because he was one of the best of the best.
No question. He finished, third in the MVP balloting a couple of years in a row. In 2014, Brantley hit .327. He had 20 home runs, 97 batted in.
And he could run too, right?
He had 45 doubles, 23 stolen bases. I mean, he just had a big-time year. Then the next year, he was on his way to an even better year, and that's when he injured his shoulder. Missed the final month and a half. The next year, they tried to bring him back. He played fewer than 25 games and then played 90 games last year. But he's staying pretty healthy this year.
And he'll be a free agent after this year.
Base hit into left field. And that'll make it 10-2 Indians. 3 straight hits off Peralta from Lindor, Brantley, and now Ramirez, who's driven in 3 runs tonight. Yonder Alonso has a double and 4 at bats. In fact, Alonso and Allen hitting down there in that number 8 spot are the only Indian starters, and of course we're excluding pitchers here, that don't have more than 1 hit in the game. Lindor has 2, Brantley 3, Ramirez 3, Cabrera 2, although he's now out of the game, Kipnis 2, Gomes 2, Allen and Alonso each with 1.
Yonder, I got to speak with Yonder a little bit before the ball game today, and it reminded me of the story they used to tell all the time, Tom, about when he was at the University of Miami. Parents were immigrants, came over from Cuba. His father worked, 2 or 3 different jobs, and Yonder Alonso, after practice at the University of Miami, would go help his father clean. He had a cleaning business, and he was cleaning office buildings and shops and things like this. just to be able to afford rent and put food on the table.
Well, we talked about when they first came over, and he was still a younger boy, and his mom and dad were working so many different jobs that, you know, him and his siblings would sit in the car, you know, all day long, right outside where his mom or his dad might be working.
We want to send out our best wishes and good luck to the Wheelersburg Little League girls softball team. They are in the semifinals out in Portland, Oregon, Little League World Championship. And they play a team from Louisiana tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. And if they win that game, they'll be in the finals. Wow. Which will be this weekend. For what a great year they've had, and congratulations to Wheelers Little League softball team. Take it all the way home, ladies, and bring home that iron.
You better believe it. That is so exciting. Good for them.
Of course, Portsmouth and Wheelersburg, one of our big stops, of course, on the Reds Caravan. Gene Bennett country down there, Wheelersburg.
Yes, it is.
He has a baseball tournament named after him. Big, nice, beautiful field.
Right back to the mound. And that will end the inning. But the Indians tack on another run. They lead 10-2.
Great American Ballpark Saturday. Be one of the first 20,000 fans through the gates. You'll receive a Scott Schebler bobblehead. That's presented by PNC Bank. See your Reds take on the Giants for as low as $12. For tickets, visit Reds.com. And you might even see Scott Schebler in a Reds uniform again. This was earlier today. He's out there with Steve Bauman, the head trainer for the Reds, throwing. This is the last step in his rehab, is throwing the baseball. He was able to throw today, guys. He says he thinks he only wants one game in the minors to prove that he could throw. Said plenty of at-bats down there as a DH. Throwing was the last step. He thinks he can go one game and hopefully be ready by the weekend.
Well, that would certainly be very good news for the Reds. They'd love to have his bat back in that lineup every day. The Reds were playing their best baseball of this season when Schebler was playing every day and batting in the leadoff spot. Now look at this. We saw this guy in spring training. The Reds signed Oliver Perez. What, 40 years old now? And,
yeah.
You know, really didn't look like he had much left. How about a 1.4 ERA after the Indians picked him up?
I remember the quote that Brian Price said, I think when it was the Reds let him go, and it may not have been Brian Price's decision, but he said, you know, in our situation, we can't afford having a left-handed specialist on our pitching roster. And that's basically what he is. I mean, although in this game is going to be more of a mop-up job for Perez.
Sure.
Well, I mean, normally, if you're going to use him in a tight ball game, Terry Francona is going to use him for one batter. And I think the way the Reds were constructed this year with young pitchers in the pitching staff, at that time, Homer Bailey wasn't back, DeSclafani wasn't back. Of course, Matt Harvey was not on the ball club. So they had to carry more arms that could go multiple innings. They did not think that Perez could do that. But here he is on a championship team. So interesting how things work out.
On the ground to the right side against the switch hitting Tucker Barnhart, and Perez retires the first two. Each team has left 10 runners on base here tonight. So now Mason Williams. Kipnis, a diving play to his feet and throws and got him. What a nice play by Kipnis. Veteran still got a little something in the tank. Wow. Actually jumped in front this game 1-0 on a Tucker Barnhart home run in the second inning off Clevenger. But then the Indians would jump in front, getting a 2-run home run, number 35 on the year by Jose Ramirez. Reds would tie the game in the fifth inning. Home run by Scooter Gennett, number 18. But then the explosion. A 7-run sixth inning for the Indians against Homer Bailey and Amir Garrett. They would tack on another run in the seventh inning against Wandy Peralta. 10 runs, 17 hits for the Tribe. 2 runs, 7 hits for the Reds. And just called up from the minor leagues today is left-hander Cody Reed, the one-time highly touted prospect, #1 in fact in the Reds organization as recently as 2 years ago. Reed has never won a major league game. Here's a fly ball to center field. 1 out. Came over in the Johnny Cueto trade with Brandon Finnegan. Finnegan, one of the standout relievers on that World Championship team in Kansas City. Wanted to be a starter here, had a good first year. Was injured very early last year, tried to come back this year, couldn't do anything well. And it's been even worse for Finnegan down in the minor leagues. John Lamb is long gone. He came over in that Cueto deal. And the Reds are still waiting for Reed to win his first game in the big leagues. And they were expecting a lot of wins out of Cody Reed.
Well, John Lamb,
I'll take that back. As a reliever, he won a game. I'm talking about as a starter. Forgive me. Thank you.
Well, he might be one of these guys, Tom. And we talked about Andrew Miller. We've talked about Randy Johnson, a big, tall left-hander. Sometimes you have to be a little bit patient. It's always been the base on balls have been his problem. But he seems to have figured that out really since the late July. He's been a starter down in Louisville, and he's not had a ball game in which he's walked more than one batter. So hopefully that's a sign that he's coming in the right direction.
So now the batter will be Greg Allen after the broken bat flare into right off the bat of Kipnis. Kipnis a 3-hit game tonight. Of course, a lot of guys have a 3-hit game tonight. When you got 18 hits and we're batting in the 8th inning, you're going to have a few of them that have 2, 3. No one yet with 4. Nationals and the Cardinals are tied. They're in the bottom of the 6th inning in St. Louis. 2-2 game there. The Braves are trying to finish off the Marlins in a doubleheader sweep. Won the first game 9-1. The Braves lead the second game 6-1. The Braves yesterday moved into a first place tie with Philadelphia. Phillies are off tonight. So the Braves could be up a game and a half in the division if they finish at, or a full game in the division if they finish off that doubleheader.
Simply amazing.
Yep. Nationals would slip to what, 6.5 back. I think the Nationals are off tonight as well. No, they're playing, I'm just mentioning, in St. Louis, depending if they win or lose.
Remember, the Atlanta Braves lost 90 games last year.
Yep.
Strikeout for Reed.
So that's a second out of the inning. It's an easy guy to root for, Cody Reed. We've talked about many times, Chris, on a couple of Reds caravans he's come out with. This young man grew up in Tennessee. He's a really, really likable young man. You'd love to see good things happen for him. And look, that's a good way to start it. You can only go an inning at a time. 1 hit, 1 left. Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio, brought to you by Toyota. For over 30 offers, visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. By Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by Ram, it's a no comparison event at your Ram dealer. Don't miss the great deals on Ram today. Beautiful look at downtown Cincinnati. Neil Ramirez, we've seen him a number of times through the years. He'll take over on the mound.
With a lot of different ball clubs. We've seen him probably mostly with the Chicago Cubs.
Yep.
Also been with Milwaukee, San Francisco, Toronto, the Mets. Last year with the Nationals.
Casale bats for the first time. Indians have used Clevenger, Miller, Perez, and now Ramirez. Perez worked a 1-2-3 seventh inning with a strikeout. Reds had a lot of chances earlier in this game. I mean, you look at the score right now, it's 10-2, and you're thinking, well, it's been a blowout. The Reds had a chance to do the blowing out. They left 2 on in the second. They left the bases loaded in the third and again in the fourth inning. Clevenger, you know, he may not have been at his best tonight, but when he needed to make a pitch, he made a pitch. He struck out Williams to leave the bases loaded in the third, and he got Eugenio Suarez on a comebacker to the mound, ending the fourth. That ball hit a long way into left field. Did Casale get it all? He did. Kurt Casale with a home run, his third since joining the Reds. This will be our whole true Miller moment. One of the few of the night for the Redlegs. Good for Kurt Casale.
He's done a nice job. He came into this ball game with a .294 batting average.
He's done a really nice job with this team. We talked about how the pitchers like throwing to him.
Very thoughtful guy.
Yep.
Did his college work at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, they're not letting a whole lot of guys like you into Vanderbilt.
I didn't see you wearing a Vandy ring around there either.
I think most people have figured that part out by now. You might have been a borderline guy. I just want to clarify.
I don't think so.
I was never even a borderline guy.
I was borderline South Florida.
Yeah, but that side of state, you had to have something going on. I was borderline Ohio University.
That was my backup choice.
Yeah, I'm sure. Breaking ball in there, strike 3 call.
Ramirez, when he gave up the home run, didn't like it at all. Watch his reaction after this. He's not sure. Is it going out? You know, it's a blowout game for a lot of people, but when you're a guy that signed a minor league deal, the way Ramirez did last fall to come in here, then they brought him up in May the 15th, they brought him up here to the major leagues. I mean, you're hanging on to your major league life, really, basically by every outing that you're out there, because there's sometimes, you know, you might be that 25th guy on the roster when you're the last pitcher in the bullpen. And sometimes it comes down to you or some other guy going down the minor leagues.
In the air in the foul ground. And then they'll go out of play. You know, the other thing that sometimes happens to that last guy too is, all of a sudden you bring up, let's say some guy that you really like in the minor leagues, you don't want to start his service time. You bring him up when the rosters expand in September. Well, now a couple weeks later, you got to declare, a playoff roster.
Yeah.
You might be the guy that's been pitching for a team all year long, or since May anyway.
Sure.
And the next thing you know, you're not pitching when you really want to be pitching.
Good point.
And it's rare the last guy would get into a playoff series anyway, because you start moving some starters into the bullpen and things like that. So, that can happen in any number of ways. But you get the point. I mean, you pitch all year and do the best you can, as Chris mentioned, and the stress of wondering if you're going to be in the big leagues even when you wake up the next day, sometimes after a bad outing.
Even if you look at it from just a financial standpoint, what it does to your family, and most of these guys that sign a minor league deal sign a split contract, which means you're being paid at one rate if you're in the minor leagues, and you're being paid at a different rate, much better, much, much better if you're in the major leagues.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing you want to do is get to the major league, so you get on the 40-man roster, so you're eligible for the benefits like the major league insurance and things like that. The next thing you want to do is stay there.
And there's strike three called to Brandon Dixon, who came on for Joey Votto and had a double in the 6th inning, and now he's retired. So after the home run, strikeouts. That's a good fastball right there. Bottom of the strike zone for Ramirez. And now he'll face Peraza, who's been on base 2 more times tonight. It seems like we say that every night about Peraza. Gave you those stats a little bit earlier. Since moving into that leadoff spot, that on base percentage 2 more times tonight, probably creeping up close to 350. He's been close to a 300 batter. And look, we'll see what the rest of the season brings, and we'll see what the future brings in next year for Peraza. But I don't know if I can remember a position player who looked so good, at least for a month and a half, like we saw in September 2 years ago. And to be quite honest, in 2017, he looked like a guy offensively that had no business being in the major leagues. He never hit anything hard.
Yeah.
Now, that's a slight exaggeration, but you know where I'm going. It was all that soft stuff served into right field. And now to watch him show up at the ballpark every day and the way he's playing, I don't know if I've ever seen a player look more confident in such a short amount of time as Peraza has within this season.
That was a good feeling. So they gave these to me in spring training, and I just was like not going to wear them. Right, I was just going to be like, I can't change. Yeah. And I had a not a rough start, but like a shortened start.
Top of the ninth inning. Look at this. Back patrolling the outfield as he once did in college. Standout two-way player. Michael Lorenzen getting a little time out in right field. And the new pitcher, how about this? Brandon Dixon on the mound.
Well, this has been the year of the position player pitching. Not just with the Reds, but just about everywhere. You saw Phillip Ervin pitch an inning or a third of an inning in New York. Retired the only batter he faced.
Well, we've seen Alex Blandino, we've seen Cliff Pennington, and you mentioned Irvin. We've seen those three pitch for the Reds this year. Now you have the Brandon Dixon. Nice job by Cody Reed. There's a pop-up by Lindor. How about that? Dixon will be able to say the rest of his life that he retired Francisco Lindor
On a 2-0 fastball.
How about that?
At 64 miles an hour. An out is an out.
One and oh the count on Michael Brantley.
Looks like he's throwing a splitter.
Or something. Well, he's grinning a little bit there. That was 68 miles per hour. Remember we used to have that conversation? Bob Melvin used to talk all the time. If you threw it at 68, guys would never hit it.
Something about that particular speed.
Yep. I tell you, whatever it is, that's got a lot of movement on it. Fly ball into left center field, man. Well, we talked about Blandino. His appearance on the mound was against the Indians. He threw a knuckleball, you may remember. He got a strikeout. And then got Perez on a fastball at the knees.
Well, Blandino, his stuff looked legitimate. I mean, knuckleball, fastball with something on it. Although I'll tell you,
this is pretty impressive.
They're not exactly barreling him up. Look at Ramirez. This guy's having one of the best years in baseball. Don't hurt yourself.
Can you believe that? That was a curveball. Brandon Dixon doing it. Look at this. Coming with a hook to get the best player in the American League. Or having the best year in the American League. Holy Moses. Sports Ohio, everything you need to know. We call it Reds Live. It's presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. Well, the Indians ace coming the Reds' way tomorrow. Really one of their 3 aces, to be completely truthful. I mean, Kluber has the iron as an American League Cy Young Award winner, but Bauer is certainly falling right in line there along with Carrasco. And the Reds will counter tomorrow night with Sal Romano. Reds Live 6:30. Back to the bullpen go the Indians. They bring on Dan Otero after Ramirez gives up a hit and a run. 2 strikeouts. Broken bat out of play by Dilson Herrera. And now a quick message from Miami Valley Gaming.
Get ready to get lucky.
Swing and a miss by Herrera, and Otero picks up the strikeout to begin the Cincinnati 9th inning. Let's go back to Brandon Dixon for a minute, Chris.
Well, he got ahead with a couple of splitters, it looked like, and then just kind of flipped up a curveball up there. And Ramirez goes down, swinging, literally, and there's the reaction in the dugout.
I tell you, now, there's another kid that is a really good guy.
Yes.
He is Brandon Dixon. I mean, rock solid guy. His mom and dad, we've never had a chance. We've seen him on television when he made his major league debut. I've never had a chance to meet him, but they ought to be extremely pleased with the way their son carries himself now as a young adult. Good kid. Good man. Suarez pushes one to the right side, under the glove, and into right field. So Suarez has a base hit. Suarez had that hitting streak that came to an end here on Saturday night in that 6-3 win over the Arizona Diamondbacks. And now starting a new one. Michael Lorenzen bats for the first time. The right fielder, Michael Lorenzen. So, you know, we asked a question earlier this season. Remember, it was asked of you in the lunchroom and me too. If he hits a home run tonight, it's a home run as a right fielder.
Correct. Same goes for a base hit.
Same goes as a base hit. The guy's some kind of athlete. Man. I mean, he's not one of those guys that's like surprised and smiling and grinning as a pitcher when he gets a hit. This guy expects to get a hit.
Well, he's really the only pitcher on this ball club that really works at his hitting. I mean, every day, maybe 3 or 4 times a week anyway, he's in the batting cage. I mean, working with the hitting coaches. The other guys take batting practice, but he takes it in the event that he's get called on in a tight ball game to come up and pinch hit.
See, I tell you, I just, and you and I have talked about this for long, I just don't get why in the world you don't utilize that weapon more frequently. I really don't. I mean, if you have a position player that can play a bunch of different positions, you're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Why would all of a sudden, just because a guy is a pitcher, and maybe he pitched the day before for 2 innings, why don't you utilize his talent, other talents in other places to help your team? I just don't understand it. You know, you get the old line, well, you don't want him to get hurt as a pitcher playing a position player. I mean, you're trying to do the best thing you can to help your team win games, and I am not so sure the last 2 years that Michael Lorenzen has not been a better option than a number of players we have seen play in the field.
I agree. But at the same time, you know, the injury factor is something that's legitimate that you have to think about. And the other is, you know, you take a guy out of his routine and you have a chance to wear him out because it gets tiring. You know, coming out here, taking batting practice. Oh, by the way, you have to also do all the conditioning that pitchers are required to do. But there are exceptions. There are certain athletes that are elite athletes. And yeah, I think we both agree Michael Lorenzen is in that category,
no question.
No doubt.
He's a different cat altogether.
Yeah.
I mean, he's in the Rick Ankiel kind of thing.
Agreed. Or David Peralta. I mean, we saw him with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Broke in as a pitcher, and now he's a hitter.
Now the Reds are down to their final strike of the game. The winner would be Clevenger. Well, how ironic it is. He has pitched so many games better than the one he pitched here tonight, where he walked a career high 6 batters in 5 innings. Only gave up 2 runs.
Amazing.
And he has pitched so many games better than the one tonight, and he finally gets a win. Bailey will go to 1-10.
Yeah, but he wiggled off the hook tonight.
Yes, he did. Foul ball. Nice to see Cody Reed back tonight. And pull to the right side, and this ought to do it. And that's the old ball game. The Reds tonight strand 12 runners, and they fall by a final count of 10-3 in the opening game of the Ohio Cup. So with 2 to go, the Ohio Cup stands at 2-2. Reds won the first 2. Indians have won the last 2. Reds Live, the post-game edition, is coming up next on Fox Sports Ohio.